everybody, I'm Corin from Greenwood Bonsai Studio. Here in the studio again this week. We've had a really busy week at the nursery this time of year in early spring, but I want to try and just do a sneaky little video for you on what we've been doing this week. At this time of year, early spring, we're fighting against nature to try and get deciduous trees worked on and processed before they come into leaf. So recently, quite a few of our videos have been deciduous trees and particularly maples. And I've done some videos of some quite nice maples, some specimen trees, some more mature trees. But all these mature specimen maples, they have to start somewhere. Here's a clump style, multiple trunk Japanese maple from my collection. But this tree is about 45 years old. And obviously it started from a more basic younger tree. So one of the jobs I've been doing this week is working my way through a batch of maples. And I'm going to just talk you through the process and show you what we're doing. So these are some maples, not bonsai maples, just garden tree maples, Acer palmatum, and the bare roots, they've been dug out of the ground like this. And there's a bundle here, I think there's about 10 in a bundle. So I'm just going to work my way through them, and I haven't had a look at these trees, so you're looking at them the same time I'm looking at them. And obviously they can be quite variable, and what we're going to do is going to process them for bonsai and to see what we've got. So let's just start off with this top one, and I'm trying to talk my way through what we're going to do with them. So this particular one, look, it's about a metre tall, maybe a bit over a metre tall. Yeah, just with the normal root system, you'll find they've been grown in the ground. They're probably about 4 or 5 years old. So this one's a potential to be a multiple trunk. You've got 3 trunks here. It's got quite a good radial root system on it. You see here there's a few wispy roots that we don't need. So what I'm trying to do with these trees is to trim them so that we can use them potentially for bonsai. Now, this is a grading process. They might not all make the grade. Some might be used for bonsai. Some will sell in nursery pots and they can perhaps become bonsai with a bit more growth. And some might just be sold as garden trees here at the nursery. So this one, the roots, I'm going to trim the roots back to get less diameter to them. There's a root here that's growing strongly upward, so that can come off. This one here is a bit long. This strong root, I'm going to shorten that back in length. Can you see this? This has got quite a lot of roots at this level, and then it's got the old tap root coming down here. So this can be removed. So best way to get rid of that with a concave pruner. See if we can get it in there and just trim that tap root off like that. So we're always trying to get a flatter root system, particularly important if the future of this tree is going to be bonsai related. So this isn't a problem getting it like this. Obviously that will go into a shallower pot. So let's have a little look at the top of the tree. So briefly speaking, this is a main trunk here, this is the thickest one. So we might be looking at this as the front of the tree. This section here has got a bit of scarring on it, look, where it's obviously rubbed against something in the field. So that's not a very good formation. So we're probably wanting to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do, we're going to just come up here as the main tree. We're going to trim this section back, get rid of that section that had the scarring in it. We're going to travel up this one a little bit more to about here. And then this secondary branch here, this trunk, will take to this sort of height, and this one to this sort of height. And just snip those little bits back like that. So what I've tried to do is just briefly trim it back. So we've got a main leader trunk, the secondary one and a third one, and they're all different heights. And this tree has got potential in future to be a triple trunk bonsai. So this one, we might end up potting it. We could probably put this, with its quite a shallow root system, we could potentially get it into a plastic bonsai training pot. Something like this. I'm going to talk my way through these trees like this, and then we're going to pot them up, and I'm going to show you them afterwards when they're all potted. And we're going to keep them here on the nursery for a few months so we can do a follow-up video of how they progress over the next few months. So that's the first one trimmed, and potentially it's going to go into one of those pots. So let's pop that to one side for now. Let's have a look at the next one, see what we've got. So again with this, quite a deep root system, not an issue to trim it back like this to get a more compact root system. And the top of the tree again, look, if I hold it up against the plain background, this is a little bit too flimsy, and this secondary trunk is quite good, but this is quite substantial and a bit boring. So if I take that shoot off, and then we come up here, and we leave the top of the tree here, and shorten this back, and these back, then this is the sort of thing we're looking at. And again, that's not bad, that can develop into a twin trunk tree. So that's potentially going to go into a pot like this. And even if we're putting them into these training pots, try not to put them in the centre, straight upright, a little bit off centre, a little bit of a lean to it to make it look a little bit more dramatic. So we'll pop that to one side. So that's probably going to go into one of those pots. So let's have a look at another one. So again here, we trim back the diameter of the root ball, take the remains of the taproot off. I see these are young trees that have been grown from seed. And again with this, we've got two trunks. This one on the right is the thicker one. So this wants to be taller and more dominant over this secondary one. Now this secondary one, this growth here is quite strong, but quite thick and clunky. We're better off using this more delicate growth here. So if I get rid of this heavy section, and then if we come up this right hand trunk, and we get rid of the heavy section in the top of that, and then here we can trim this back, like so. Right, so that's 3 of them done. Let's see what else we've got. Now this one here hasn't got so many twigs further down, and the roots aren't really as good on it. So this has got, of the ones we've done so far, this has got the least potential. Now if this was your tree and you got it in a pot at home, one of the things you could do with this, you could potentially do an air layer at this sort of level, which will allow you to take the top of the tree off in the coming months. So that would be a usable section. This is a little bit boring. So what we'll do with this one is we'll just we'll trim this heavy root back. We'll shorten these back a little bit, and we'll trim the top back to this break here. And that one I think we'll put into we'll just put that into a plant pot, something like that, and we'll grow it on, see if it becomes a little bit better looking in future, or it might go for a garden tree. So that's 4 of them done. Let's see, here's another one. So again with this, these roots, shorten this back, this tap root, if we can shorten it back through here. This is split just here, this root. Can you see where they've dug it out the field? There's a crack and a split in it there. So that wants to be taken off just to neaten up that area. This is funny, this branch coming out with a strange movement on it. These are a bit too flimsy. And then looking at the actual rest of the tree, again, potentially a multiple trunk. If we come up here, up this trunk, shorten this trunk back to this finer growth, and probably shorten that right back down to that little break just there. But that'll make a tree in that sort of style. I think this taproot actually might be able to take that back a little bit further into here, which will allow me to get it into a slightly shallower pot. So this is quite a chunky one. It's one of the biggest ones in this bunch. Quite heavy roots. So a few flimsy little wispy roots there that we don't need. And again, when I'm trimming these trees, because of the size of them and they've got quite a lot of thick roots, you know, that's why I'm using a pair of secateurs, which I rarely use for bonsai, but in this case they're the best tool for the job. So here, the roots on this aren't great, but the trunk's quite good. It splits here into two, but it all gets a bit busy in here. So I'm going to try and take out the thicker sections, this bit, this section here, and then coming up here. This is nice movement through here. And when you get to this point, there's a nice break here where it breaks to 3 or 4 sections. But then this is very heavy. Yeah, so if I take that heavy section off, and a lot of this I'm taking off the heavy clunky sections and keeping the finer growth. So once I get to this sort of stage with this tree, then I'm going to go in with a pair of our bonsai scissors and just trim back some of this longer growth. Some of you no doubt be surprised at how quick I'm trimming. It's not because I'm being slapdash with it, it's because I've got about 300 of these and I've done 200, so I've been practicing this week and I've got a bit quicker. So once we get up to that sort of stage, look, that's got some potential in the future. Right, let's see what we've got. Now this looks like the runt of the litter of my 10 trees, and maybe that this is one of them. So that's just a little tiny one. So we can just nip the top back on it, and that will just go to use probably at the back of a group planting to give us a bit of depth, or pop that into a little plant pot. Let's see what else we've got here. And again, another one here with some little wispy roots that want taking off. The taproot wants taking back. These can be shortened. Structure of this tree, this is a bit strange. Sort of twin trunk, goes up to here and breaks to 3 or 4 places. This one crosses over this one. This one's not very good. A bit of an ugly duckling, that. Let's take that off so it doesn't cross over. Let's come up this section, and then we'll just come up this main one and shorten these back all together. Yeah. And that's destined for a plant pot to grow it on for a little while. So a bit variable, but that's what it's like. It's just sorting through them, seeing what we can do with them. This is quite a large one of the batch. Let me trim the roots first to make it a bit more manageable. Right, so with the roots trimmed, this is what we're looking at. And this again has got some damage on this upper section. Yeah, this could have been from animals or something nibbling them in the field. Could have been from deer or something like that, but something stripped the bark off these before we've purchased them. So let's see what we can do. We've got a sort of twin trunk here, and what breaks have we got on it? This is a bit boring, isn't it? If we take this section down to here, again we're coming up this thinner line, and that's at the back, and then we take this same section off here and shorten it back, so that we've got something like this. What have we got left? A couple more left. Again with this one, look, these roots are growing a little bit too far up the trunk. They can be taken back. And then this taproot, just shorten it back like so. Trim this back a little bit. Take that heavy shoot off. We'll come up these finest shoots. So that's a good one that we could use in a group planting in the future. A lot of you perhaps will have seen the video that we did a couple of weeks ago on Japanese maple group plantings, and the trees that I used in that group planting were basically this sort of tree, but a year further on with a few more twigs. So this is as they start out, And if we're lucky, we get to, you know, a few hundred of these every year that we do this procedure to, that make good stock for group plantings, either for me to do here or to do on workshops and classes. Now this one, the roots are a bit of a jumble. There's a break on the roots here where it goes to a finer root. So if I take that section off there, and in here, and this bit back, and this section back, and then coming up the tree, it's got a few twigs lower down. Well, these are all going to bud out, and these will develop as branches. And with them not being too thick, we've got a possibility of managing to wire some of these down. So I don't want to come too far up this tree, so I'm gonna finish this tree off in here. So concave prune will be the best tool for the job here, and get in between that section and trim that back like so. Okay, so what we've ended up with, let's have a recap. We've got that quite chunky one, we've got this massive one that's kind of a twin trunk, so those two, and then we've got another twin trunk, another little one here, 4, 5, 6, 7, that triple trunk, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 11 in that bunch of 10, or we've got about 10 and a half. I don't think you can count that as a 1, but you count that as a half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pot up these 11 trees. I'll do one for you now. Okay, so stage 2 of this procedure now is potting the trees up. So I've just been to get a tripod turntable and some pots and the bits of wire and things that I need. So we're going to wire the tree into this pot. So use a bit of 2.5mm wire, just pop it up through the drainage holes in the bottom of the pot, like so. We'll put a little bit of mesh over the drainage holes just to stop the soil falling out, as we usually do, like that. And then we'll put a bit of compost in the bottom. Now, I'm just using our basic bonsai compost for this, which is a mixture of 2 parts peat, 2 parts grit, and 1 part Johnny needs number 2, just like that. We're going to pop this tree into it. This is what I think this was the first tree that we trimmed, this triple trunk. So facing me, want a little bit more root off that back, a little bit more compost adding, and then we're going to plant it just to the left hand side of the pot, like this, leaning over to the right. So once we're happy of where we're planting it within the pot, we can add more compost like that, and then we'll just firm it down all the way around the tree. And then this wire, just going to bring it across the back of the tree, pull up this end to meet it like that. Just hold the tree and pull, just twist the wire. Just because it's a shallow part, it doesn't take a minute to wire it in, just to make it a little bit more secure. Pop it down like that. Just neaten up the surface. So that's the first one potted, like that. These larger cuts that we've made on this tree, anything over sort of pencil thickness, at this time of year, early spring, it's quite important to seal those cuts. It will stop the tree weeping and losing sap, but also cosmetically look, that's quite an obvious cut. We put some wound sealant on it. My preferred wound sealant is lac balsam, and we'll just dab some of that on those cuts to help to seal and promote healing on those tips. So dab that on, that's that done. And I'm going to pop it over here onto the side, and we'll have a look at doing a few others. So a few of these ones that were a little bit less interesting, This was just a sort of a boring one, wasn't it? We said we'd grow it on for a while. So that one can go into a plant pot. Some soil in the bottom. You can use normal sort of horticultural potting compost for these in plant pots, but we prefer to use our bonsai mixture because it's a bit grittier and it gives better drainage for the trees. So another one potted up like that. Let's see what else we've got in these larger ones. Perhaps a slightly larger training pot for this sort of one to give it a bit of room to grow on. So what I'll do, I'll get the rest of these potted and then you can come back to me in a few minutes and I'll show you them all lined up and talk you through them. Thank you. Okay, so welcome back. I've just been busy potting up these trees. It's a little bit boring to show you me potting up 11 trees. So I showed you the first couple and now I'm just doing the last one here. This has got quite a nice base to it here. So we're putting this into an oval training pot, plastic bonsai pot. So if you've got any trees, young trees like this that you're developing, then these pots are really cost-effective alternative to give you a bit of a bonsai image, but without breaking the bank. So just tie it in, just snip off that excess piece of wire, push it into the soil. So I've already put the wound sealant on the top of this. There's a little bit to go on further down on this little cut here and this one here. So a bit more at the top. Okay, so these ones behind me are the ones that we've got from that big bundle of Japanese maples. So we've graded them out. We've got a couple that are a little bit boring that will grow on for a few years. We've just put them into plant pots for now. We've got the tiny little wimpy one that can go over with those. We've got this one that had a bit unusual structure, not really very good for bonsai. So they're probably the 4 sort of B grade ones, if you like. And then we've got a couple of nice twiggy ones at the back there that we've put into bonsai training pots. We've got that larger single one with a nice base to it. We've got a possible sort of twin trunk here in this one with some movement. Another one here quite chunky at the base. And then we've got the first one we did, this triple trunk, and then another little twin trunk here. So we're going to take all these trees, we're going to put them in a cold greenhouse just to shelter them a little bit. We're going to just let them come into leaf naturally. They should be in leaf in about 3 to 4 weeks time. Once they're in leaf, we'll pop a bit of bonsai food on them, probably use Naruko bonsai food, and it will just help to keep them healthy and get them to put some more growth on. And we will do this as a follow-up video. I'm going to put these trees to one side and label them up so that in a few weeks time I can bring them back in the studio and we can show you them in leaf and show you what they've done. If you've enjoyed this video, then please watch our other videos and like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new content. Thank you very much.